The red sands of Mars have always whispered secrets. Ancient rivers, lost atmospheres, traces of life long gone. But this time the whisper turned into a scream. Because just days ago, NASA's Perseverance rover captured something no one expected, something that shouldn't even be there. A glowing object, hovering above the Martian horizon, moving with precision, pulsing with light. At first, scientists thought it was a glitch, a reflection, a cosmic coincidence. But when the data came in, the truth hit harder than anyone could imagine. It wasn't a comet, it wasn't an asteroid. It was 3I/ATLAS, the same interstellar object that had once defied every known law of physics. And now, it was here, on Mars. The signal from Jezero. It began with a faint anomaly in the rover's Skycam feed, a streak of light cutting across the thin Martian atmosphere. The onboard AI flagged it as unidentified motion. Normally that would mean dust, a meteor, or a passing satellite. But this one didn't behave like any of those. It slowed down. Then it stopped. NASA's mission control in Pasadena went silent as the data streamed in. The object hovered for nearly 11 seconds before vanishing beyond the horizon. When the images were enhanced, the outline became clear, a long, reflective structure, thin and metallic, glinting in the sunlight. It matched the exact dimensions of 3I/ATLAS. The return of the impossible 3I/ATLAS had vanished years ago, accelerating out of the solar system faster than any natural object ever recorded. NASA had declared it gone, lost to the void. But now it was back, and somehow it had found its way to Mars. Harvard astrophysicist Avi Loeb, who had long argued that 3I/ATLAS was artificial, received the images within hours. His response was immediate. NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory confirmed the match. The object's reflectivity, shape, and trajectory were identical to the interstellar visitor that had once defied physics. But there was one difference. This time, it wasn't just passing through, it was stationary. The object on the surface 2 sols later, Perseverance's navigation cameras captured something extraordinary, a reflective structure, half buried in the Martian dust, standing upright near the rim of Jezero crater. It wasn't a rock. It wasn't debris. It was smooth, symmetrical, and metallic. When the rover's laser spectrometer scanned it, the readings came back blank. The surface absorbed the beam completely. No reflection, no scatter, no identifiable composition. It was as if the material didn't exist on the periodic table. NASA's engineers were baffled. The rover's instruments couldn't penetrate it. Even radar imaging failed. Whatever it was impenetrable. The Harvard-NASA emergency call within hours. NASA convened an emergency meeting with Harvard's astrophysics department. The data was shared under strict confidentiality. The object's dimensions matched 3I/ATLAS exactly. 45 meters long, 6 meters wide, razor-thin edges. But the most shocking detail wasn't its shape, it was its temperature. Despite the freezing Martian environment, the object emitted a faint, steady heat signature, perfectly constant, unaffected by day or night. It was generating energy. The pulse then came the pulse. On Sol 312, Perseverance's sensors detected a rhythmic vibration in the ground, faint but measurable. Every 22 minutes, the same pattern repeated. At first, NASA thought it was seismic activity. But Marsquakes don't occur in perfect intervals. When the data was converted into audio, the pattern formed a low humming tone, identical to the frequency once recorded from 3I/ATLAS as it passed through the solar system years earlier. It was the same object, and it was active. The message Harvard's team began analyzing the pulse intervals. They weren't random. The gaps between each vibration followed a mathematical sequence, the Fibonacci ratio, the same pattern found in galaxies' DNA and the spiral of seashells. It was as if the object was communicating, not in words, but in universal mathematics. NASA's Deep Space Network transmitted a binary signal toward Mars, encoded with a simple message: "We acknowledge your presence." For 3 days, there was silence. Then, on the fourth day, the pulse changed. It doubled in frequency, and then stopped. Moments later, Perseverance's cameras captured something impossible. The object began to move. The awakening dust erupted around the structure as it lifted, slowly, silently, from the Martian surface. It hovered for several seconds, then rotated, aligning itself with the sun. Its surface shimmered, reflecting light in geometric patterns: triangles, hexagons, spirals. NASA's instruments recorded a surge of electromagnetic energy unlike anything ever seen. Then, the object emitted a beam, a narrow column of light, directly into the Martian sky. The beam wasn't visible to the naked eye, but it registered across multiple wavelengths: infrared, ultraviolet, and even gamma. It wasn't random, it was directed toward Earth. The transmission. Within minutes, radio telescopes across the world detected a signal. Faint, structured, and repeating. It wasn't noise. It wasn't natural. It was a message. The signal contained a sequence of prime numbers, followed by a repeating geometric pattern, the same one seen in the object's light reflections. Harvard's decoding team worked around the clock. When the data was visualized, it formed a three-dimensional shape, a spiral expanding outward from a single point. At the center was a symbol, a perfect circle surrounded by 12 smaller ones. It wasn't random, it was deliberate. The reaction: NASA went into lockdown. Public feeds from the Mars Rover were suspended. Officially, the agency cited technical maintenance, but insiders leaked that the rover had captured additional footage that showed the object splitting apart into multiple segments, each glowing with internal light. The segments rose into the sky, forming a formation, a perfect hexagon, before vanishing into the upper atmosphere. The last image Perseverance transmitted before the blackout showed something that defied explanation: a faint circular imprint left in the Martian soil, glowing faintly, pulsing with residual energy. The Harvard revelation. When the data was finally declassified weeks later, Harvard's Avi Loeb published a paper that shook the scientific world. He proposed that 3I/ATLAS was not a comet, not an asteroid, but a self-replicating probe, a von Neumann machine, designed to explore and seed information across the galaxy. Its reappearance on Mars wasn't random, it was intentional. Mars, he argued, was a testing ground, a waypoint, and the pulse it sent to Earth wasn't a threat, it was an invitation. The hidden code. As researchers continued to analyze the signal, they discovered something buried deep within the data, a secondary layer of information encoded in the timing of the pulses. When translated into binary, it formed a pattern resembling a map, not of Mars, not of Earth, but of the solar system, as it would appear 10,000 years in the future. The implication was staggering. Whoever, or whatever, created 3I/ATLAS wasn't just observing, it was predicting. The silence. Then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, the signal stopped. The object was gone. No trace, no debris, no reflection. Only the faint imprint in the Martian dust remained, a perfect circle, still faintly warm, weeks later. NASA's official statement called it an unexplained atmospheric phenomenon. But behind closed doors, the tone was different. Harvard's final report concluded with a single line. The legacy months later, as the world moved on, a new anomaly appeared. The James Webb Space Telescope detected a faint moving object beyond the orbit of Neptune, small, reflective, and accelerating. Its trajectory? Back toward the inner solar system, back toward Mars. And this time, it wasn't alone. 3 identical objects followed behind it, moving in perfect formation. The final question. If 3I/ATLAS wasn't a comet, if it wasn't an asteroid, if it wasn't natural at all, then what was it doing on Mars? Was it searching for something? Was it leaving something behind? Or was it waiting for us to find it? Whatever the answer, one truth remains. Harvard and NASA have seen it. The Mars rover has captured it, and the universe will never be the same again, because 3I/ATLAS has returned. And this time, it's closer than ever.